Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar, How to Plan a Record-Breaking End-of-Year Fundraising Push. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items, so all callers will be muted. If you have questions, feel free to use the chat box that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. If you lose your internet connection, feel free to refresh the browser or reconnect using the link that was emailed to you. If you have to drop off early or if you want to watch the webinar again, we'll be hosting the webinar on our website, TechSoup.org/community/events-webinars. We'll also be sending an email with the presentation, the recording, and any relevant links. If you're on social media, feel free to tweet at us at TechSoup using hashtag TSWebinars. But like I said earlier, we'll be using the chat box that you see on the left-hand side of your screen. So just a little bit about TechSoup. We are located in 236 countries and territories. We serve over 1 million nonprofits around the world. We partner with several technology companies like Adobe, Amazon Web Services, Intuit, Microsoft, Symantec, and several more that you see here to make our mission possible. We offer donated and discounted technology to nonprofits around the world. If you're interested in learning what technologies are available to your organization, feel free to visit our website. You can see the URL here, and my colleague Zareen will be messaging this out to you, and you can see if your organization is eligible to receive some of these technologies. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and introduce everyone on today's call. But before I do that, actually, I would like to know where you guys are calling in from just to make sure the sound is clear. So if you want to type in the chat box and let me know where you're calling in from, I can read out a few of them. All right, so we have Sarah from Virginia, Lisa from Central Ohio, Kathleen from Ventura. All right, so it looks like the sound is coming in loud and clear. Perfect. And thank you guys for joining us today. So my name is Seema Tucker. I am the Senior Manager of Content here at TechSoup. My colleague Zareen Kazi, she is going to be helping with the chat on the back end. And then we have today's presenters. So we have Brooke Currents, who is the VP of Marketing at Give Lively. Brooke brings a decade's worth of B2B tech experience at Fortune 500 companies to the nonprofit fundraising world. Brooke has been growing Give Lively's marketing arm for over 2 years and is energized by the privilege to work alongside nonprofits fighting for the causes she loves, like gender equality and social justice. And then we have Molly Treratola, and she is the Media and Communications Manager at Give Lively. Molly's background in philanthropy ranges from managing small-scale fundraising campaigns for nonprofits to large-scale communication projects for a Fortune 500 company's philanthropic initiatives. At Give Lively, Molly coordinates the startup's presence at events and in the media, and she works with nonprofits of all sizes to tell stories about their experience with fundraising technology to support their missions. So I am going to go ahead and pass it off to Brooke.
Awesome. Thanks, Seema. So welcome, everybody. We're excited to be here and to be talking a little bit today about how to plan a record-breaking end-of-year fundraising push. So going into reintroducing myself, as Seema said, I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Give Lively. I've been here for about 2.5 years and had the opportunity to work with thousands of nonprofits varying in size and cause all over the United States to really understand what barriers to fundraising and specifically online fundraising there are and how we can work to overcome those. And so we'll talk about that a lot today. And I'm also going to allow Molly to introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Molly. Super excited to be on this webinar with you today. I'm the Media and Communications Manager at Give Lively, as Seema said. I help coordinate our presence in the media and at events and work with some of our nonprofit members to communicate around their use of technology, how technology impacts their organization, and how they're using it to support their mission.
We're seeing that there's a lot of echo. Does it sound any better? I'm trying to get closer to the phone. Is this any better? Yes?
That sounds fun.
Yay. Okay, cool. Thanks, Roger. Awesome. Okay, great. So who are we? So Molly and I both work at Give Lively. Give Lively is a philanthropist-funded startup that builds free online fundraising technology for nonprofits. So we have a super unique business model in that our founders and funders are philanthropists who cover all of the operating costs of running our organization. So what that does is allows us as a tech startup to be innovative, to build alongside our nonprofit partners what technology and what fundraising technology they actually really need and deliver that to them at absolutely no cost. So we have no revenue, we have no profit, we simply operate to be a service to the nonprofit community in the United States. So any nonprofit that is a 501c3 registered nonprofit in the United States can become a member of ours and take advantage of our growing fundraising platform, as well as the content we provide and our dedicated nonprofit account specialists. So that's who we are at Give Lively, and that being said, we have present day about 3,000 nonprofit members who rely on us for their fundraising technology needs, and that membership is rapidly growing, and as we scale, we hope to be able to provide some best practices that we've seen along the way, and that we hope to share with the broader nonprofit industry. So that's what leads us here today. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, during this next 45 minutes, 4 things. So why is a year-end fundraising push so important? How to build a multidimensional campaign and what that even means, how to engage with donors via different channels and maybe try out some channels that you've not yet attempted to use, and 4, how to leverage innovative technology without breaking the bank. So I think from here we're going to go into a quick poll to be a little bit more collaborative to understand a bit more about who's going to be joining us so we can better cater that to you. So I think the first question's up, which is, are you already planning an end of year fundraising campaign? Cool, let's see. Oh, cool, got it. Okay, so it looks like the majority of you guys are saying yes, but still a decent number of people haven't yet started that campaign, and they're here to learn. Awesome. You go to the next one? Yeah. The next question is, how comfortable is your nonprofit with online fundraising? So you've never done it, you've tried it, but it's not super successful. You're somewhat comfortable with it, you're very comfortable, or you're extremely comfortable. Okay, so it looks like the majority of people are saying that they've tried it, but it hasn't been super successful. Also a decent number of people saying somewhat comfortable, and some people that have never done it, and also some that are very comfortable, but the bulk have tried it but not super successful. Okay, cool. What is the biggest barrier to a successful online fundraising strategy for your nonprofit? And this is the last question, I promise. You can also select multiple ones of these. So time to dedicate to learning, your budget, you don't have in-house digital expertise, or your donors just give offline. Everything. Okay, cool. So it looks like the top 2 are time to dedicate to learning and no digital in-house expertise. Okay, cool. So hopefully in the next 40 minutes or so, we can help a little bit with alleviating the time to dedicate to learning and also the lack of in-house digital expertise. So hopefully we'll give you some strategies to overcome both of those barriers. Okay, so let's get started. So why fundraise now? So Molly is going to talk to us a little bit about the importance of end-of-year fundraising, just to set the stage.
Thanks, Brooke. So now that we have an idea of your nonprofit's experience with online fundraising and where you stand, that's helpful for continuing through this webinar, just to see where everyone is at. So exactly, why fundraise now? I'm sure you've heard that the end of year is an incredibly important time to fundraise, but why? In the next few slides, we'll share important statistics illustrating the importance of an end-of-year fundraising campaign and how it fits into into annual fundraising in general. To start, annual giving increases every year. Charitable giving is on the rise also. For example, $410 billion were given to charities in 2017, which was an increase from 2016, and it's expected to increase even more this year. Even Giving Tuesday last week saw incredible gains that exceeded most projections. Over $380 billion were raised on Giving Tuesday, over 3.6 million gifts with an average gift size of $105. But what does this mean for the end of the year? So the majority of giving actually occurs in the last days of the year. Almost 1/3 of online giving happens in December. Even more so, 10% of that is in the last 3 days of the year. And the average gift size is higher in the end of the year too. So not only is it an incredible opportunity to fundraise in general at the end of the year, but also online, which I'll illustrate in the next slide. $31 billion of annual giving was fundraised online, which was a major increase from the year before. But what's even more notable is the amount of money that's fundraised on mobile devices, which is a reflection of donor trends. So not only are more people giving online, but more people are also giving on the go, on their phones. So it's important to adapt to these trends. And the biggest takeaway from these statistics are that the end of year is a critical time to fundraise, and there's a major opportunity to fundraise, especially online. Now I'm going to kick it back to Brooke to go into how to build a campaign.
Cool. Okay, so I'm just going to speak from a very high level as to how to think about and conceptualize building out your year-end campaign. So the three most important things to do this are: one, how to write your appeal; two, how to set a goal; and three, how to let your supporters know. Like, what is your communication plan? So when we talk about number one, writing your appeal, what you want to focus on is creating a really strong and compelling message to motivate your supporters or new potential supporters to take action. So how do you best come up with that messaging? So the first thing that we recommend of best practice to do is, if possible, go back through previous appeals that you've made, language that you've used on social media and email communication and direct mail, even in conversations with volunteers and conversations at conferences, and reflect or analyze what has worked and what's been the most successful. When you're doing this, also take into consideration imagery or any type of multimedia that has been used alongside a successful campaign. There's nothing wrong with repeating a successful campaign from the past and maybe just, retouching up some of the language or making it make sense for this year. But that's the first best practice. The second, when writing your appeal, if you don't have historical data, let's say you're a new nonprofit who this is your first time writing a end-of-year campaign appeal, especially one maybe with an online fundraising ask, is to focus on the individual impact of the donation that you're asking for. So it can be really tempting, and we see a lot of nonprofits do this, is just to talk about the broad cause that their organization is trying to fight, like to talk about the effects of climate change, et cetera. But that actually can serve an adverse purpose if it demotivates a supporter by them feeling like, well, this cause was just huge and my $100 is not going to do anything to make a dent in the billions of people being affected by this particular problem. So instead, if you can look at it through the lens of an individual story as to the exact localized impact of your nonprofit organization's work and how that $100 donation will matter and will make progress happen, that's a much more compelling ask towards the supporter and makes them feel really involved in a part of your mission. So that's our second main best practice for writing your appeal. And we'll go into these a little bit more in detail, but that's high level. The second thing as far as planning out your end of year campaign is setting a goal. So setting a goal is really important both internally and externally. So internally, get together with your team and plan, what are our goals for end of year fundraising? What's a stretch goal for us? And consider things outside of just a dollar amount. If you're trying to tap into new donor markets, is there a number of new supporters that you want to reach? Do you want to try out different channels of communication and potentially build up followers on different channels who could become donors in 2019? Do you want to achieve a certain number of monthly or recurring donors who will sustain you through the 2019 fundraising year? Do you want to get people to volunteer for an event that you have? So consider all of the ways that you want to measure success outside of just a singular dollar amount that are more broadly strategic. So that's internal. Externally, stating and planning a goal is really important to motivate donors, but also help explain to them what you're really trying to do, again, to make them feel like they're part of the progress and part of an achievable, sizable goal for end of year. So again, it's a way to really bring them into a realistic story and a realistic goal that they can feel their support made a big dent in. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, but it's important to communicate out your goal and then have consistent communication to talk about your progress towards that goal and how potential donors can be the solution to hitting it. So the third point, let your supporters know. Okay, so just because you have a goal and just because you have a super smart fundraising appeal doesn't do anything if you're not getting the message out. So a communications plan is super important for achieving success. So you want to plan this in advance. You want to build out a timeline through the end of the year, and understanding that it's the holiday season, a lot of people will be out of the office, potentially your own staff or yourself will be out of the office, so it's important to plan ahead and plan the frequency of which you're going to be posting, sending out emails, what those different channels are, and we'll talk about some tools and more detailed description of a communications plan later on, but how you can preset those communications to go out so that just because the holiday season happens and people are out of the office, you're not missing the most pivotal days of online giving. So those are the three high-level things to kind of conceptualize your end-of-year campaign. And then I'm going to kick it back to Molly, who's going to talk about actually executing an online fundraising strategy.
Thanks, Brooke. So now that you have your campaign messaging, it's time to put that into action with an online fundraising strategy. You have your pillars of a campaign, you have your appeal, your goal, and a general plan for how you'd like to let your supporters know, but what's the mechanism for doing that? Online fundraising. In the next slides, we'll go over the pillars of a strong online fundraising strategy and best practices for online fundraising success. Okay, so what do you need to set up your online fundraising strategy? At minimum, you will need a fundraising platform through which to process donations and a fundraising page for your end-of-year campaign that gives donors the ability to donate to your specific appeal, as Brooke was saying. You can, of course, have a general fundraising page, but it's more appealing to a donor in this time of year for them to know exactly what you're fundraising for. So a great way to do that is to set up a specific end-of-year fundraising page. You'll also need channels to circulate this messaging, as Brooke was saying, a social media presence, and an email list. They don't need to be strong, but they need to be targeted and a forum through which to reach the people who are engaged with your organization and will potentially donate. So that's what you need at minimum. Before jumping more into online fundraising strategy, here are some best practices to keep in mind while launching an online fundraising campaign. So number one is to make sure your donation form is easy to use and mobile responsive. As we said before, more and more people are donating on their phones and online, so you want to make it as easy as possible for them to do so. Feature your annual campaign fundraising page prominently on your website, and you can do this either as a widget or linked behind a donate button on your website. If it's linked behind a donate button, that means when donors come to your website, they will click on the donate button and be led to your specific annual appeal fundraising page. Number three is specific to building out your campaign fundraising page. If your platform gives you the option, we highly recommend branding your campaign with end-of-year messaging and customizing the giving levels. These can be higher than what you would usually ask for because, as the statistics we went over at the beginning of the webinar, people generally give there's an average gift size at the end of the year, so it's okay to customize your giving levels for your end-of-year campaign to be a little higher than usual. 4, in terms of functionality, it's best if you offer your donors multiple methods for payment. For example, you can give donors the option to give via ACH or direct debit and digital wallets, making it easy for them to give on their phones, in addition to credit and debit. Number 5 is more administrative for you, but automating the thank you process will lessen the administrative burden on your end so that when individuals are giving to your organization, they automatically get a thank you message and a tax receipt, and that's not something that you have to handle administratively on the back end. It will just make your end-of-year fundraising campaign process a lot easier. And then last but not least, it's important to embrace new fundraising tools and strategies. Many people will think to shy away from this at the end of the year because an end-of-year campaign has high stakes, but it's also a great opportunity to try out new strategies and tools because so many people are giving, and there are so many wonderful new tools out there to use that now is a great opportunity to do so. So jumping in a little bit more to that last piece about experimenting with new tools and strategies, you can do so to amplify your voice and impact of the organization. And again, it may seem contradictory, but the end of the year is a really great time to experiment, and there are a lot of new ways to reach and engage with donors and encourage them to donate. A few of these examples are here, and I'll dive in a little more specifically to them. But for example, peer-to-peer, fundraising, text-to-donate, recruiting, securing a a corporate match or a sponsor in your local area is also a great way. There are so many avenues and methods beyond just the individual donation to a single fundraising page. There are so many ways to amplify your impact and expand your network of donors. Okay, so to start, one method we see a lot of Give Lively's nonprofit members using and asking about is peer-to-peer fundraising. If you've never used peer-to-peer before, the end of the year is a great time to start because more people are donating. It's the holiday season. A lot of gift giving is going around. So I'll just jump into what peer-to-peer is. It's a great way to empower your supporters to fundraise on your behalf, and your supporters can do so by setting up their own individual fundraising page and setting a goal that they would like to raise for your organization. And the way this really benefits your organization is by expanding your network, because these supporters who are fundraising for your organization are also sending the message out to everyone in their network. So you're multiplying your network beyond just what your email list or your social media presence allows you. Moving on, another great strategy is text to donate. It's a really wonderful way to stand out from other organizations and make it convenient for donors to give and support your nonprofit. It's also a great way for creating social media buzz, and it can be effective when promoting through traditional advertising like print, not just online, but also if you're doing any print advertising or print promotion for your end of year campaign, you can plug in a means through which individuals can reach your fundraising page. For those of you who don't know what text to donate is a simple way for donors to access your fundraising page and give on the go on your mobile devices. It's really popular at events, at fundraising events and galas, so specifically for the end of the year, but we see text to donate being used by a variety of nonprofits at a variety of events, not just galas, but walkathons, other annual fundraisers, rallies, and also online. And we've also seen Give Lively's nonprofit partners have incredible success using text to donate at an event. So if you're hosting an event and you are looking for a way to give your supporters a way to donate to your organization in the room, in the moment, text to donate is a really great strategy. Tied to text to donate is live event fundraising, and live event technology goes hand in hand with something like text to donate because not only does it motivate donors to give at live events just by being something that you project on a screen, but what live event fundraising does is update your campaign progress in real time and showcase real-time donation tracking. So when donors are contributing to your organization in the room in real time, they can see their name appear on the screen that you're projecting, and it creates kind of a friendly competition and just empowers people to give in the moment even more than just text to donate. And again, nonprofits have used live event fundraising at galas, marches, and all other sorts of events to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for their causes. And then another strategy and method you can explore for end of year is recurring giving. It's a great time to ask supporters to not just give that one-time annual donation, but to actually be a recurring supporter of your organization and to continue to invest in your missions throughout the year. So how do you ask for donors to be recurring supporters and give a monthly donation instead of just a one-time? There are a couple ways you can do this. You can customize your donation form, if your platform allows you to do that, to make the default a monthly donation. The other way to do that, if that's not an option, is to communicate it clearly in your messaging via email, social media, in your email appeals, that you would really love supporters to become recurring donors, recurring supporters of your organization. You can make that ask very explicit in your email, and I wouldn't shy away from it, especially for the end of the year. So those are some strategies and different ways to amplify your impact and build a multi-dimensional campaign outside of the single fundraising page. And it may seem like a lot to handle, but there are so many resources out there for getting started with these different types of technologies and methods, and the end of the year is a really great time to experiment. So now that you have your fundraising strategy, I'll kick it back to Brooke, who will talk about communication strategy.
Awesome, cool. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about some high-level best practices for communicating out your end-of-year campaign. So I'm not going to get too in the weeds with these because I want these to be applicable to most of the people on the call today. But I am going to talk about some key things. So the first being segmentation. So the more you can segment out your list of supporters, of potential supporters, based on past giving behavior or past interactions with your nonprofit, the better. So people today are really are used to personalized and customized ads for them. They're used to messaging that's specific to what they've done. They're used to consumer trends to where, if you just bought shoes, you're going to get 5 ads for shoes, and you're going to get if you like this, you might also like this type of message. So modern day donors are those same people, and they're really used to being talked to and made to feel very personalized. So the more you can segment out any way that you can your lists, we recommend that you do that so that you make these donors feel special. Some great ways to do that are by segmenting out when they gave their last gift. That's a really big indicator of how likely they are to give again. So it's actually the case that if they gave recently, if they gave within the past year, they're engaged with your nonprofit, they've recently seen the messaging, and they're likely to give again, especially if you give them a reason to with a specific campaign message and goal for end of year. Another way that is important to segment out is a supporter type, and what I mean by that is the level of giving that these people have engaged with your nonprofit organization in. So this could seem pretty basic, but a lot of nonprofits don't segment this out. So you wouldn't want to ask a donor who historically gives you $20 every month to give $10,000. And the same thing to donors who are your big ticket donors who maybe do give $10,000 or $5,000 at a time. You want to make sure you're looking at historical donations and ask something higher or around the same what they've given you before. It's a big, it's a big detractor from a potential donor if they feel like by you asking them for something far less than they actually give to support you, it can start to feel like you're not even acknowledging the gift size that they do give you. So it's a really, important, the best you can, to use any sort of email tools or list tools, however you can, to segment out and make your communication strategy specific and segmented to the demographic of people that you're speaking to. So aside from segmentation, we'll talk a little bit about actual communication best practices. So again, being donor focused, so using language like you, really trying to be as personalized as you can to these people that you're writing to, understanding if they're recent volunteers, add in a blurb about the recent volunteer experience, in a way that's scalable, but make the content as personalized and donor-focused as you can when you're writing your language. Second is using compelling imagery. So imagery has shown to have a much higher rate of donations and completions. I understand that not every nonprofit has an arsenal of amazing, graphic designers on site, but we will address some ways to get some really beautiful imagery at free or low cost in a little bit. It's really important to use imagery if you can. 3 is a little bit of what we talked about earlier, which is telling a compelling story. And this is back to the concept of focusing on the individual impact of these donors' donations to your mission and really making it personal and localized. So storytelling is a really important way to get donors involved and feel like they themselves can repeat the story to their friends and family of what their donation meant to your organization. And then number 4 is just using existing email lists or volunteer lists or any list that you have. A lot of people make the mistake of segmenting out volunteers from supporters via fundraising, as they feel like, well, these people already volunteered their time. I don't want to ask them for a donation. But volunteers actually are very likely to give if you ask them. And then again, just focusing on the individual impact. I know I've said this a few times, but it's really important that in every way you can to personalize every ask and really bring it back down to a granular level. Then I'll move on to the next slide, which is around what to say via email and social media. So number 1 is stating your goal and your messaging. So what your goal is, let supporters know ahead of time what your goal is going to be for end of year. Let them know that you're going to be asking for donations. Get them to already have that in their minds as they go into the end of year so that they can actually ahead of time budget out how much they're going to be prepared to donate towards your goal and your end of year messaging. And then number 2, end of year is a great time to talk about what you've accomplished as you look back at 2018. Or if you want to, do a milestone of we've been here 5 years, we've been here 3 years, we've been here 20 years. It's a really nice time to reflect on what your organization has accomplished, especially for those who have previously supported you. So make them feel very seen, make them know that what they've done before did make an impact. And then also it's a great time to look ahead. With that being said, as what are your 2019 goals? What are your end of the year goals? And let supporters really feel a part of that and feel that they really understand the position that your nonprofit is in now and where you want to grow and why you need their support to do that. The third thing that's really important is that you're always recognizing and thanking your supporters for how they've interacted with your nonprofit. So if this is a group of volunteers, make sure that you're following up with them multiple times just to recognize the impact that their volunteering had on your organization. Make sure you're even thanking and recognizing people that haven't donated yet, but let's say they just started to follow you on social media. It's a really great strategy to reach out to those people and say, hey, thank you so much for following our message and following us on social media. Anything you can do to make people feel seen is super important for their continued support of your organization. And then it's really important that in all of your messaging, you have a really clear call to action. So telling people exactly what you want them to do and what you want them to give and how. The less barriers or clicks or pages that they have to go through or processes that they have to follow to achieve your call to action, the better. So if you can just say, we want you to donate $150 right now with a button that does exactly that with a service like Apple Pay attached to it, or just entering one field of a credit card line, the quicker you can get from your messaging of appealing imagery and how this is going to make an impact to that actual completed donation, the more successful that you're going to be. And then the last thing is just to continue to update your supporters on the status of your campaign. Again, it's all around just making supporters feel like they're a part of your mission and they understand and have transparency into what's being done with their donation, but also as you're asking them to make a donation, understanding how close you are to your goals and understanding that if you just get another X number of dollars, you'll be able to do these 5 things better. And then, if you can spotlight a specific supporter or volunteer and make them feel really recognized within your community, that's always encouraged. Oh, and I think I put on here, don't forget to use hashtags. So hashtags on social media are a great way to trend or to be searched by people that care about your cause. So they can actually find your organization by clicking on or by searching a certain popular or trending hashtag. So that can help amplify your reach. So those are some high-level best practices for messaging for your end-of-year campaign and communications. And now I'm going to kick it back to Molly, who's going to cover some tech tools that are free and or really cost-effective to actually implement a lot of what we've been talking about.
So now that you have campaign messaging and strategies for online fundraising, Brooke just went over communication strategy too. It may seem really overwhelming and you're thinking, how am I going to execute this with my current internal infrastructure? But the solution to that is there are so many free and affordable technology tools out there to support your campaign building, your calendar, and how you can execute this campaign. And many of them you can just get started with immediately. They're cloud-based, so they live on the internet, and again, a lot of these are free, and so I'll go into them and explain what they are. All right, so social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This one may seem redundant and obvious, but it's certainly important. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are really quick ways for your nonprofit to spread your message and get donations outside of sending your supporters emails. Not only that, but these platforms also include built-in tools for you to measure your reach and engagement and other key statistics. And then additionally, well, first of all, these are free. But if you'd like to boost your posts and target certain people, maybe in your local area, who are known to have given to charity, you can do so. You can also just keep it to your core supporters, but these social media platforms allow you to do that. And if you'd like to boost your posts, that's something that you will pay a nominal fee for. But certainly for the end of the year, if you have a high fundraising goal and you want to reach as many supporters as possible, you can consider doing that on these platforms. As Brooke was saying in the communication piece, having compelling, high-quality imagery and graphics is very important, but not everyone has an in-house designer. So Canva can be a solution to that. On Canva for nonprofits, it's actually free, and you can create graphics, edit photos, and much more, again, all for free. Canva has really easy drag and drop tools, and the format is incredibly easy to use, whether or not you're in marketing or development or a one-person team executive director. You can quickly create graphics and flyers, digital flyers for your organization using Canva. And a lot of these that I'm going over are things Give Lively has actually used, so that's why we're recommending them. And Canva is a very helpful tool on the internet for you to use. Again, along the lines of compelling imagery, most nonprofits don't have access to professional photographers, And that's where websites like Flickr Creative Commons and Unsplash come into play. These sites, using these sites, you can find compelling imagery, high quality photos that you don't have to pay for. Every site comes with copyright, so you can use them, Photoshop them, add them in your own designs, and there are also videos on these. But again, if you don't have imagery in your nonprofit's archive, you can certainly look for imagery related to your nonprofit's missions using these websites. Going back to the social media piece, if you want to schedule social media posts to make the end of the year less stressful, Hootsuite is a really wonderful tool for in order to do that. You can schedule Facebook, Twitter, and Twitter posts, a day in advance, 2 days in advance, a week in advance, even farther in advance, and do it all in one fell swoop so that every day you're not pressured to post at like 10 p.m. or 3 p.m. You can schedule it all in advance using Hootsuite, and it's free. And it's a great way to keep everything organized all in one place. And then nonprofits, there's a paid for tier that nonprofits can apply for a 50% discount. MailChimp is a great way to schedule and send out email blasts. With MailChimp's free tier, your nonprofit could send up to 12,000 emails a month to 2,000 subscribers, and you can set up landing pages with, you have access to guides and tutorials and email templates. You can also get instant email chat support for 30 days, and again, schedule the emails that you're sending out. You can copy campaigns that you've used before and repurpose them for your end-of-year campaign, as Brooke was saying. It's a really wonderful platform to have all of your email communication in one place, and then also see open rates and different statistics for the performance of your emails, how well everything is doing. So this one is kind of a given, but we definitely wanted to plug Give Lively in here, and I see a number of you have asked what donation tools you can use. Give Lively offers nonprofits a powerful fundraising platform for free. As Brooke was saying, just to reiterate our mission, our founders cover our operating costs, so that allows us to provide these fundraising services to nonprofits for free. To give you an idea for what the technology incorporates, not only do we have fundraising pages, but we also have embeddable widgets that you can plug into your website, text to donate, event ticketing, and a lot more. And at the end of this webinar, we'll provide resources for how you can get in touch with us. Beyond just the technology, we also focus on helping nonprofits get set up with the technology, but also strategies for success and strategies for online fundraising success. And we have a robust archive of videos, blog articles, and how-to guides for how to go about doing things like this. And then the last two slides are more for internal administrative purposes. But for example, Google Drive and Microsoft Office are great for managing internal materials. With these programs, you can collaborate with employees and keep everything all in one place. These are tools that Give Lively uses for ourselves, and we find that it's really wonderful to not stress about saving things to specific computers. Everything is collaborative, it's in the cloud. And yeah, definitely recommended to use to make your end of year more digital and easier to manage. And then finally, at the end of this long laundry list of inexpensive or free tools you can take advantage of is Google Analytics. If you don't have data on who's visiting your site and how they're using it, you're basically in the dark. So you can shed some light on how well your site is performing with Google Analytics. There's actually a free version of this software to help you tally your website visitors, figure out their demographics, and you can track their movements on your website and clicks to your site just to make sure you're optimizing users' experiences on your website, especially pertaining to your end-of-year campaign and online giving. It's a best practice to feature your donation form, your donate button prominently on your homepage. And with Google Analytics, that statistics and data about your website will help you figure out how best to do that. Great, so now I'm just going to kick it back to Brooke.
Awesome. So we're pretty much done with our portion of the content, and then we're excited to hear some of the questions that you guys have had as we've been going along and anything else you have. But I did want to take a minute just to pull this all together because I recognize it's a lot of information and there's a lot going on and a lot of different things that you've got to consider for end-of-year campaigns. So first we talked about campaign messaging, how to write a strong appeal, to look at past best performances as far as your appeal goes, focus on individual stories. Second, we talked about picking what types of potentially new online technology that you're going to try to use to tap into new donor markets. So we covered things like peer-to-peer fundraising, text-to-donate at events with live display, and setting up individual campaign pages for your appeal. Then we talked about communication strategy overview, how to plan out your communications, how to be consistent, what those best practices are. And then Molly shared a lot of free to no cost to little cost resources for you, as well as did an overview of some of our technology that is all free for you to use. So before we dive into the questions, I just want to reiterate that we are here to help. We have a full team of nonprofit account specialists whose entire role and job is to speak to nonprofits one-on-one and really guide them through this process and talk them through our free technology offerings and how we recommend you use those free tools to achieve success for end of year, but throughout 2019 and throughout the lifetime of your organization's mission. So we have experience with nonprofits ranging from extremely large global nonprofits, like our partnership with the Malala Fund, to smaller nonprofits who are volunteer run or who are brand new and just getting started, maybe just now developing their first website. So we have experience really helping nonprofits of all sizes start their journey or really help along the way with their journey of online fundraising. So we're here to help. And with that being said, I will let us dive into some Q&A if we have that.
All right. Thank you, Molly, and thank you, Brooke. So if you guys have questions, please use the chat box. We are running a little short on time, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So one question that we saw is, should Giving Tuesday campaign be a part of your year-end fundraising plan, or should that be a separate campaign?
Okay, cool. This is Brooke, so I'll take that. Great question. So Giving Tuesday was originally set up as the kickoff to end-of-year giving. So that being said, if you were able to do your messaging with Giving Tuesday already being stated that this is the kickoff to end-of-year giving, and this is the first day of really getting those appeals, that's great. If you didn't have that messaging in your Giving Tuesday campaign, or if you didn't participate in a Giving Tuesday campaign, you can, sorry, the heater is so loud in here. You can definitely include Giving Tuesday as part of just energizing people around online fundraising and the end of the year. I'm not sure if that exactly answers the question, but
I think so. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Okay, so the next question is there's a few questions around social media. So in terms of recommended time of day for Facebook and Instagram, and then also in terms of messaging, like how much of the posts should be around fundraising versus actually talking about the mission.
That's a really great question. So in terms of timing, there are a lot of resources and statistics on the internet you can look up for like best time to reach supporters. I've worked at organizations before where 10 and 3 are, for some reason, the recommended time to put out Facebook posts. But I'd say in general, especially over the last couple years, people are on social media constantly. So, even if there's an ideal time to send out, or if there's a more ideal time to send out a message, I would say that sending out social media posts during the day and then post work will be when people are on these platforms and scrolling through social media. So if you can schedule it for, not necessarily in the morning, but towards the afternoon and the end of the day, that would be great. And then in terms of frequency, a lot of nonprofits ask us this. You can blast, especially with email, as much as you want. And I know that sounds not right, but especially with nonprofit communication, we tell our nonprofit members the more the better, and that's actually something that we wish nonprofits knew, that they can send out a higher frequency of communication via email and social media than they would expect.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we have time for about one more question. So Christine is asking, I have a donor page on our website that captures information but would like to do text to donate. So how do you capture and share that information?
So is the exact question around capturing, Christine, can you elaborate a little bit? Captures info? I have a donor page on our website.
She can give us their explanation.
Capturing the info on the donor, I think. Yeah. Okay, so great question, and this is a huge point that a lot of nonprofits bring to us, is collecting donor information. So at least with our technology, we do have additional donor fields that you can add, such as capturing the donor's address. If they're using text to donate, you're getting the telephone number of where they texted you from. We highly recommend for the donation process to have as little required fields as possible, especially around donor information. The least number of fields to barrier for completing that donation, the more likely you are to actually get a donor to complete it. That being said, you can add, at least on our technology, additional required fields such as a mailing address if that's something that your nonprofit needs.
Perfect. Okay, and then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, I saw that Caitlin was asking about a free text-to-donate provider, and that is us. We provide absolutely free text-to-donate, and all the technology that we talked about today that we provide, peer-to-peer, with a leaderboard, text-to-donate live display, unlimited fundraising pages, embeddable widgets, all of that Give Lively builds and maintains and provides for free, as well as an event ticketing platform for any 501c3 nonprofit that wants to sign up on our website to become a member.
And it's also important to note that we don't take a cut of donations either.
All right, I think that is a good place to end today's webinar. So thank you, Brooke, and thank you, Molly, for today's presentation. Just a few items to close. So if you guys don't mind, we have a post-event survey. Your feedback really helps us in terms of dictating future content and just trying to understand if the content today was very helpful for you. Also, we are on social media, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Feel free to give us a follow. We post a lot of articles and tips and tricks and things like that. We also have a blog, blog.techsoup.org. Again, we try to post a lot of helpful information there as well. We have a few webinars coming up in December, so here's a list, and then also we'll be sending this out in the follow-up email if you are interested in any of these topics. And then lastly, we also offer TechSoup courses and TechSoup services. So if you are interested in doing a more formal training in things like social media or Google Analytics, we do have a promo code that Zareen will be sending out in the chat right now that webinar attendees can get for 10% off the TechSoup course of your choice. And then we also have TechSoup services, which is help desk, managed IT, cloud implementation, and Office 365 support, and we'll send these links out after the webinar. Lastly, I just want to thank Molly and Brooke again for today's presentation. I'd like to thank the attendees also for staying on this long, and then to Zareen for helping on the back end with chat, and then lastly to our webinar sponsor, ReadyTalk.